Hey guys, Kit Creep here. Today we're going to be talking about the Level 4 wind shirt. So first, let's start off with what is a wind shirt and how does it fit into the 7-layer cold weather system? Hey guys, Kit Creep here. I need a mic. Today we're going to be talking about the 4th level of the PCU system, and that is going to be the wind shirt. A wind shirt is a lightweight and packable mid-layer that is both windproof and water resistant.
The Level 4 wind shirt is the most versatile and most misunderstood of the layers. Unlike a hard shell, it's designed for high levels of activity, but at the cost of some weather protection. And when used inside of the system, it can retain up to 300% more body heat.
So one of the purposes of the mid-layer is to keep you warm. So when you think of mid-layers, you're probably going to think of something like a fleece. Something like this PCU Block 1 Level 3. This is what we know as a mid-layer, but one of these wind shirts can also be an insulating mid-layer.
And instead of insulating through a high lofted fleece, it's instead insulating through the tightly woven fabric. That makes this an excellent choice in those shoulder seasons where fleece would be much too warm.
Well, it is a beautiful 45-degree day with a light drizzle, which is honestly the best kind of conditions for a wind shirt.
Its lightweight and packable form factor allows it to easily fit in a cargo pocket for active weather protection on the go. Because of this, wind shirts are very popular among backpackers and climbers. The most notable of which being famous mountaineer Mark Twight. It was a staple of his alpine uniform or action suit that he developed. Mark Twight's climbs are often compared to military-style campaigns due to their rigorous planning and standard operating procedures. The action suit was one of those standardizations that helped Twight's team ascend mountains in record times. His use of SOPs is most certainly why he would go on to help Natick Army Labs develop the PCU system. Mark Twight is known for climbing light and climbing fast. The wind shirt is perfect for his applications because it provides active weather protection at low weight and bulk. Being able to easily fit in a pocket not only frees up room in your pack, but also means you won't need to dig through your pack for it, giving you weather protection in a pinch. So the action suit consists of a base layer next to skin, a wind shirt, an insulating mid-layer, and a soft shell. If the wind shirt sits closer to the skin, not only is it going to stop forced convective heat loss or wind chill, but it will also significantly reduce the amount of sweat that moves to your insulating layers, as well as preventing excessive heat dumping when changing layers. In this use case, it sort of acts like a pseudo vapor barrier liner. The philosophy here is that the least breathable layers will sit closer to the skin and they'll get more breathable as they move farther away.
And if you don't know what a vapor barrier liner is, the best way to describe it is if you've ever seen someone put bread bags over their feet before they put their sock on and then subsequently into their boot. It's essentially a vapor barrier. It's going to stop 100% of water from contacting the subsequent layer.
Twight's system relies on several synthetic layers that are quick drying and breathable. So the tightly woven material of the wind shirt blocking moisture while maintaining breathability is much more preferable over a vapor barrier liner.
So anything that is part of the action suit or his alpine uniform is not going to be subtracted. Garments will only be added over in order to cook yourself dry. So if your base layers are soaked, you wouldn't strip down and take those off. Instead, you would throw on, like, let's say, a Gore-Tex hard shell or a level 7, and then cook yourself dry and force evaporation.
Also, depending on weather conditions, the wind shirt can be worn as an outer layer. So when it comes to moving fast and preventing heat dumping through changing of layers, the wind shirt should be thrown over whatever you got on.
Does this count as bouldering?
However, wind shirts typically have to trade durability for weight and bulk reduction, so their best use case is not as a shell. Durability should definitely be considered when it comes to ice axes, knives, bushwhacking, or lots of vehicle work.
I've taken up splunking because you can never have too many hobbies that will be the inevitable end of you, so I'm just kidding, I have too many of those.
So let's take a little deeper look at how this works. Our first use case is going to be as a vapor barrier. You and your base layer are going to be represented by the black marker. And here, the level 4 wind shirt, represented by the yellow marker, is going to be the second closest layer to your skin. A nice thin layer of heat surrounds us at all times, and the wind shirt is going to protect that from forced convective heat loss or wind chill. And as we all know, there is a small amount of moisture that is always evaporating from our skin. So because the level 4 is not a true vapor barrier, it's going to allow that to pass through the system and evaporate into the void. However, when worn underneath your insulating layer like a level 3, a level 7, or especially something like a down jacket, in high levels of activity where you're going to be sweating more, it's going to protect that insulating layer from excessive moisture. Now let's say we're wearing a fleece over our level 4, and we know that those don't do much of anything against wind or rain, so we're going to throw a soft shell on over top. And as we know, a soft shell is going to be both wind and water resistant. However, in the case of heavy rains, it is going to penetrate through that soft shell and wet out your mid layer. And in the case of high winds, all that nice heat that the mid layer has built up is going to get blown away. However, the level 4 is still there to protect that nice thin layer of air that surrounds us, taking the bite out of the wind and protecting us from wind chill. And the same thing will be true for removing any layers that are on top of the level 4. And this brings us back to the alpine uniform or action suit, where we're going to be able to add and subtract layers without excessive heat dumping. So this philosophy is going to help us go faster and last longer. Next up, we'll be looking at the level 4 wind shirt as an outer layer. So as always, you are going to be wearing a good set of base layers, but now we will assume that our insulating mid layer is going to be worn over top of our base layers and underneath the level 4 wind shirt. This now means that our mid layer is going to be in direct contact with the moisture from our bodies, and the level 4 is going to give us light rain and wind stopping protection. But now all that nice warm heat that we have built up underneath the level 4 by that insulating mid layer is not going to be blown away by the wind. And although we're nice and protected from a light drizzle, we're not protected from a heavy rain, so let's throw a soft shell on over top of the level 4 and see what happens. Now, of course, the level 5 soft shell is going to protect us both physically and emotionally from light drizzles and light wind. Now, having level 4 underneath the soft shell is going to stop high winds from ripping all of that heat that was built up by your mid layer, but it's also going to stop heavy rains. Through the use of durable water repellent treatments and simple physics, we are now effectively waterproof while still maintaining a highly breathable system that allows for high levels of activity. This is made possible through the soft shell or a field jacket, stopping the velocity of the water, reducing it to 0, and then our DWR treated level 4 wind shirt is going to beat up that water and not let it penetrate through the garment. However, the biggest drawback to the system is that if we do want to remove that insulating mid layer, we're going to have to remove our soft shell and wind shirt and strip down to our base layers, dumping a lot of heat, which does go against Mark Twiight's action suit philosophy.
Now, when Mark Twight was talking about the level 4 wind shirt, they actually had E&E in mind. I know there's a lot of talks right now about SEER because of Grantham's really awesome videos, as well as Grunt Proof's really cool SEER survival videos. I think that this is an important thing to highlight because it is so versatile. It does add a lot of really good weather protection at very low bulk, very low weight, and there's, again, just no reason not to have it. I also saw Adam from Spirited Systems including a level 4 wind shirt in his kit. He has a lot of really great things to say about it. And he typically wears it as an outer layer. He doesn't seem to be having any issues with durability. But again, just wanted to highlight that durability could be an issue for you guys out there that are gonna run this thing a little harder. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's not a PCU level 4. And you're right. And I've got a great reason for that, and that is I'm poor. But in all honesty, this is the Arktis Stowaway, and these things are honestly, in my humble opinion, better than the PCU variants that have come from both Orc Industries in the Block 0 and Patagonia in the Block 1. And I'll get into that. The reason that I like the Stowaway, first and foremost, these things run for $40. Whereas the PCU wind shirts, as well as the UCP pattern Gen 3 wind shirts from the Equic system, run anywhere from like $100 all the way up to like $250, $300 even. It's not that worth it to me. The second one is going to be the features. Actually, the lack of features on this shirt. But yeah, the level 4 from Arktis is going to be my preferred wind shirt just because it is mainly lacking features and it's so easy to use. Even the fact that the hood itself is just elasticated and doesn't have any kind of, extreme features like, cinch cords and there's nothing behind the head because it's not necessary because this is not an outer layer, it's a mid layer, right? The other thing that I like is the wrists are just elastic. There's no Velcro cuffs. It only has a quarter zip, and it has a very simple little draw cord at the bottom. What all of this means to me is that they ditched a lot of luxurious features in order to bring that weight and bulk down. Now, another thing that I like about the Arktis Stowaway specifically is that it has a under the helmet kind of a hood. It's one of those hoods that gives you a bit of a phallic look when you put it on, but when it's put underneath the helmet, I'm also able to use my Arc'teryx LT Atom hoodie to put over the helmet. So now I'm double protected from the wind. Oh, hey, by the way, if you guys want to pick one of these things up for yourself, I recommend heading on over to Commando Store. They just started selling these. I've had this one for over a year. Well, not this exact one. I lost the first one, so this is my second. So I had to pay and wait for international shipping twice.
Arktis also makes these in a ton of really cool colorways, some of which are available on Commando Store's website, including OptiView, which is essentially discounted multicam.
So I think it's really cool that the guys over at Commando Store are selling this right now. They're not paying me to tell you this. I just think they're a great company. It's great seeing that they're selling this thing stateside.
The Ork Industries Block Zero wind shirt does fit my definition of a wind shirt. However, these are notorious for having durability issues, and those Velcro cuffs and hood adjustments add unnecessary weight and bulk in my opinion. The Patagonia Block 1 Level 4 is a great garment, but I feel like that full zip takes it out of the wind shirt category and makes it more of a wind breaker. Nuance, I know. Also, the full-length zipper is not going to feel as great if you do need to tuck it into your pants. And both of these shirts have one fatal flaw, and that is the zippered stow pocket. I think that the Arktis Stowaway has a much better design with the drawstring closure as opposed to a zippered closure. We all know how fabric loves to get snagged in zippers, and it also adds more weight and bulk as opposed to the Arktis design. Also, if you plan to wear a plate carrier over one of these, that zipper chest pocket is not going to feel too great underneath that. Although the Arktis Stowaway is made in the UK and therefore not Berry compliant, I believe that a low-profile half or quarter-zip wind shirt is a turnkey option for infantrymen because it's easily hidden under your camis, effectively making you wind and waterproof while still maintaining your camo pattern and SOPs, as well as being much quieter than a hard shell. Well, a lot of people refer to something like this as a wind shirt or a wind shell. And that's not wrong, because there actually are no standardized definitions of any of these things in the outdoor world. The same thing goes for something like a soft shell versus a hard shell. There is no standardized definition for how waterproof a soft shell it can be before it's a hard shell. There are no real definitions of these things, so a lot of words and nuances get thrown around, and that's where the 7-layer system really comes in handy, because instead of having to dig through all of this nuance of what is a wind shirt versus a wind breaker versus a wind shell versus a soft shell versus a hard shell, instead, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So again, we're defining things by what they're not, and this is not a wind shirt. It is technically, according to the PCU system and the PCU manual, a soft shell. Now, some of these PCU garments are pretty hard to come by, especially in your size, and they do still typically run at a premium even though they're surplus. So some good commercial recommendations for you guys are going to be the Arc'teryx Squamish hoodie and the Patagonia Houdini jacket. For Berry compliant options, my first choice would be the Beyond Clothing A4 wind shirt, and a close second would be the Cry Precision windliner. So let's talk about some other pieces of wind protection. And one of those is going to be this fleece jacket from Patagonia. This fleece jacket is from their Regulator series. This is the Regulator 4 or the R4 Fleece. What makes this fleece so special is that it's not just a fleece. This fleece contains the Polartec wind block membrane. Fleeces are notorious for not being wind resistant. Combining both the level 3 and the level 4 into one garment can be super nice in some situations. For me personally, I think it's great for, I left something in my car and I wanted to go out to my car or get the mail, right? This thing is a great around the house item. But when it comes to, actually being out and doing, some extreme outdoor recreational things, well, I would much rather separate the two because it really doesn't add that much weight or bulk, right? Next up, I want to talk about
these pants from Beyond Clothing, because we keep talking about wind shirts, but we haven't talked about bottoms. Now, in most cases, whatever pant that you wear is probably going to be just fine. We mostly care about our torso area because that's where our vital organs are going to be. However, there are some pretty massive arteries in our legs, and protecting those from forced convective heat loss is a good idea. And that's where something like these Beyond Clothing L4 Ventums come in handy. I really like Beyond Clothing because they do stay true to the 7-layer system. Not only do they sell to the military, but they also have a lot of really awesome commercial items. And this is one of them. This is a very stretchy hiking / climbing pant material. Got some cargo pockets on the side. It uses a button closure, which I'm a huge fan of. Love button closures. These are very breathable, very maneuverable, right? They're lightweight and stretchy. I wear these every time I go to the climbing gym, but I think that these are great in the shoulder seasons where it's a little too cold and sometimes a little too wet to be wearing something like your standard cotton work or hiking pants, but not cold enough to solicit a full-blown soft shell pant. Because we typically use those more for like the snow. And if there's no snow on the ground, the temperatures are still in that like 40s or 50s kind of a range. These are really what you want, and I'm a huge fan of these. Last thing I'm gonna show you guys, and that is actually going to be a British field smock. Now this one's black, so I'm gonna guess that this was issued to law enforcement. I think that they are super sweet. So these things are best known for being windproof, right? These are commonly referred to as windproof smocks. Now, I wanted to point this thing out because although it is windproof, it's not a wind shirt because, well, it's not a mid layer. Of course, you can call it a wind layer or a wind shell. I think that's the terminology that like Kevin from Spirited Systems is using, and that is absolutely not wrong. So yeah, this is a windproof shell. And one of the reasons that you can tell it's a shell is it's a lot heavier, it's more durable, and also you've got a lot of big pockets on the outside. This is designed to be thrown over other things as opposed to underneath. This would be more like a windproof level 5.
So I hope you guys found this information helpful. I've got a lot of really cool stuff lined up for us this winter. And let me know down in the comments what you guys do, what you use. I see a lot of really great conversations going on my PCU video, which now has almost 1 million views, which is insane. Thank you guys so much. And as always, layering systems are very personal. What works for you might not work for everyone else, and what works for someone else might not work for you. Go out, test your stuff, and find what actually works.
Hey, I mean, honestly, babe, if you come right here, there's better overhead cover. Do this quick.
I want to do one more take.
Okay.
I think it was cool.